Hello and welcome to the Force/Berserk Izax 8-man hard mode video guide. My name is Zwerny. I am the raid lead of the Force and member of Berserk. We just downed the boss because no one else releases informations on it. We decided to release a full video guide on it so that everyone who wants can kill the boss a little bit easier. And we hope that you all get the titles and the achievements you wish to have. So, first of all, I have to say thank you to a few people. First of all, the guild Infinitus and Nox from the German server Tulak Horde. It was really nice to be a part of a little bit of a collaboration between four guilds, being the Force, Berserk, Infinitus and Nox, that basically helped each other along the way because Germans are excluded from the PTS. So, thank you for that, and we hope to have the same kind of collaboration at the next operation. So, with that out of the way, let's get to the boss. Phase 1, we just let the kill video roll. First phase is pretty simple. You just have to damage the boss a little bit, and the only ones really having to do a job are the tanks. Tanks get swiped by the boss, as you will soon see, and this swipe leaves a debuff on your tank. As you see now on Courage, he has one debuff, one stack of a debuff, and if he gets swiped again, he dies. It's as simple as that. It's about 230,000 damage, so you could force speed it as an assassin tank or something like that, but normally you just die. So how can you prevent that? You see the yellow void under the boss. You have to run into it while he swipes. So, because you do that, you will get a yellow debuff and not a second debuff of the cleave one. So, you just alternate between that. You take a cleave, you run into the yellow void. You take a cleave, you run into the yellow void, and so on. And the more often you run into this yellow void, the higher your stacks get and the more damage you take. But it's very manageable. You can do it with one tank, no problem. But we decided to do a tank swap, and as you see now, there's another ability for the DPS. The DPS get the Cascade. The Cascade will, you will have to deal with Cascade for the whole fight, and it's quite an annoying little ability because it deals a lot of damage, and of course you can basically reduce the damage with Hunker Down as a sniper or with other abilities that reduce damage, but after all, it's really nasty. So you have to run out of the group because you see the little circle around Arberton right now on the right of the screen. If someone moves into the circle, they get a stacking debuff, and if they reach 3, they get the same debuff as well, so it spreads basically. So whoever gets this debuff needs to walk out. And that's basically phase 1. There's not much more to it. There is a snare when the boss hits the ground. You get snared, but you can just CC break that as a tank. And you just saw what happened if a tank fails. You're basically dead. So now we transition into phase 2. Phase 2 starts with same way as in story mode, with a white void, and you have to move in there because the anchor that will spawn will pull you in otherwise and deal damage per pull. So quite a lot of damage. So we focus the anchor drone so we can move out, and then we focus the Tether Droid. The Tether Droid, same as in story mode as I said, drops a little neat item, and that's giving you the ability to tether or to pull, simpler said, the amplifiers or energy drones or whatever you want. And to pull these amplifiers is the only possibility to interrupt them. So what you want to do now is, you see these energy drones in the corners, and you want to basically charge up the amplifiers with the shots of the energy drone. Normally, you should do my job, which is charging up the amplifier. You should do that with a taunt DPS. If your group is all of equal skill, you should always use a taunt DPS because it makes it so much easier. You can just shoot on the amplifier, taunt the energy drone, and load it up. You know, no problem. So what we decided to do is that on one side are 2 DPS who are trying to control the energy drones into shooting on the amplifier, because they will shoot on you, and if you are in line with the amplifier, it will get a stack. That's pretty much it. So you see me now tethering with the temporary ability bar on the left. The first ability gives me the possibility to pull it a little bit so it stops casting, because if you would let this cast through, the amplifier would lose all its stacks. Okay, so that's why you have to interrupt it. So let's roll it a little bit. So you see now how we charge up this amplifier, and at 3 stacks, which is has now, you can kill the shield of the boss by simply aiming it towards it. And to be more specific about it, the amplifier has 2 abilities. The one is this one, which is more like a blue icon, and the second one is a red icon. The red one is random into the rate, so you can't control it. So you always tether it or pull it a little bit so it interrupts this cast, and it always casts the blue one after that. And that is on its primary target. So as you see, I can just redirect the amplifier to the boss, shield is broken, and we shoot on Izax. The hull droids you see here are just something for the other 2 DPS. So what we are doing is, left side looking on the boss is dealt with by the tanks, and the right side is dealt with by the DPS. And the 2 remaining DPS are just cleaning up. So whenever hull droids spawn or whatever, they just clean up. And that is phase 2. So you have to do this 3 times, unfortunately. I mean, I guess if you have more DPS, you could push for 2, but the boss needs to be at 80% life, or 79. So you can imagine, even with 6 DPS, I think it would be quite a struggle to do it with in 2 phases. But yeah, the same story again. We focused the anchor drone, then the tether, and the tether drops again an item, so we can grapple the amplifiers and stuff. So we try to give our healers now the remaining grapple items, because in the second phase they will need it anyways, or in the third phase I should say. In the third phase they need it anyways. So simply said, don't waste it. That's all there is to it. Don't waste the drops from the Tether Droids. Always pick them up. Okay, so same story again. You try to aggro the energy drone with doing my job, and another DPS will help you loading up the amplifier, and once it reaches 3 stacks, you can redirect it on the boss and just explode the shield. Then again you deal boss damage, and after 3 times it normally reaches 80%, 79%. Then you won't have to deal with it a 4th time. If you don't deal any DPS in this phase to the boss, you will have to do it 4 times actually, which is quite annoying. So always try to DPS in between these phases, so you only have to do it 3 times. Yeah, last time, again, we run into the white void, we focus the anchor drone, then the tether droid, picking up the item. The tanks and the DPS control the energy drones. The 2 other amplifiers that spawn in the middle of the room we just ignore, so they will shoot on the healers if they have a stack, but normally they shouldn't have a stack, because the amplifiers, as you see here, only start casting when they actually have a stack from an energy drone. So that's pretty nice, because the other 2 shouldn't shoot at all if you do it properly. So again, we interrupt the red cast, we let the blue cast go through, and we are basically at phase 3. So, yeah, 79%. We managed it. Yeah, it's just a little bit of waiting until the boss spawns again, and then we have a nice little mechanic that is called the Omni Cannon. The Omni Cannon is something big that will hit you, even in story mode, pretty hard, and it just gives you a feeling for what's to come. So the charged Omni Cannon, which is casted now, can be interrupted if the boss doesn't have a shield. This shield can be broken by damage. So it starts now without a shield, and we can interrupt the first cast. I highly recommend you to do a rotation, to not let everyone cast at will or interrupt at will. Rather, you should, let one tank interrupt, then 4 DPS, and then the tank again. Because you normally, if you interrupt really fast, you can have 6 interrupts. If you let it go a little bit, if you see the cost is 2 seconds, if you interrupt after 1.5 seconds, you should only have to use 5 interrupts in between the shield phases, where you have to, again, DPS down his absorb shield to be able to interrupt. The second ability, or the second main concern in this phase, are the Tether Droids that spawn. As you see here, left to me is Courage, who is tanking both Tether Droids, and these Tether Droids will stun you, as they do in the trash before the boss, or in story mode, whatever. In hard mode, you can't interrupt them, so they will just cast through whatever comes. And therefore, we just leave one tank in the middle, who AoE taunts, and basically he has to do nothing in this whole phase. It's basically 40 seconds of L-tabbing, you just, watch a movie, whatever. I don't understand why they implement such a bullshit mechanic, to be quite frank, but whatever. So we just DPS down the boss, as I said. Now our tank lost aggro to a healer, because, you can't cast anything when you're stunned. So one of our healers is most of the time stunned. Now our tank asked for a little help of one of the Tether Droids. This is all optional, right? If your tank is good, or you use a Guardian tank. If you use a Guardian tank / Juggernaut, you can just Saber Reflect, and you won't lose aggro on these Tether Droids. So he will literally stand there the whole phase until you transition into the next phase 3, which is 3.2 basically. So now let's explain what is our goal here. As I said, our goal is to deal as much damage as possible, and you see now in my target frame that Izax has a stacking buff, which is right now at 28 stacks. This stack is not allowed to, this buff is not allowed to reach 100 stacks. If you do let it come to that, the boss will cast Omni Cannon and you will all die. So let's just let it run a little bit, and these interrupts are to prevent him from stacking up. Same as in story mode, only in hard mode he gets 4 stacks per cast and not 2. And you have this absorb shield that prevents you from interrupting. So you need to have an interrupt rotation of 5 interrupts or 6, and you basically always need to do that as soon as it's possible. The cascade, as you just saw, is continuing. It's just an annoying ability. It's like so annoying. But whatever, you will get used to it. You maybe like it, I just hate it. Yeah, so what happens if the boss reaches a certain amount of stacks? Well, that's what the towers or generators in the corners are for. You can make these generators explode, and then the boss will go away, because he's, I don't know how it works, it has nothing to do with physics, right? He's just hooked onto the platform, and if you destroy a generator, he just goes boom. I don't know. Don't ask me. So as you see now in the top left corner of my screen, there's a person of us standing. Unfortunately, there's a little picture to hide the chat. But you can click the generator left to the boss. And if you do so, you will reset his stacks, and he goes away, and he loses 4 to 5% life. That's what's happening now. So now you get the same shit all over again. Okay, so you have to do it 3 times. Just as in phase 2, you have to do it 3 times, and you will really learn to hate these phases. You know, I'm just giving you a little heads up. Don't be discouraged if you dislike these phases. We all hated them. It's 9 minutes of doing nothing, right? You're DPSing the boss. One tank is AFK in the middle, and that's about it. And you interrupt. Wow. Okay, we just hated it. So yeah, it's basically your choice what you do, whether you kill the Tether Droids first or just DPS the boss. Both is totally valid. Okay, you don't need the DPS on the boss. Now, in the second phase, there is another little twist. So, as you see, the right generator, top right corner of our screen, is destroyed. That means that we can't destroy it again, but the other generators aren't destroyed. So what we have to do here is use the conductor droid in the middle and connect a destroyed generator with an intact one. This gives us the ability to destroy the intact one as well, and the boss will go away again. So you use the conductor droid, pull it in the middle, and then you use your grapple item. Healers do that for us because they have literally nothing to do in this phase. I can't say how much I hate it. So basically, you use your grapple item once you stand in front of the generator, in front of the unpowered bypass conduit, and you get a little icon over your head. It's either blue or red, depending on whether it's an intact generator or a destroyed one. And then you just use the item, and your little line connects the conductor with the generator. But not another little twist. You lose your item when you do that. So you basically, your possibilities are to just grab another one from a Tether Droid that just died, or get past one, because the second ability is to throw it to someone else. Okay, so if your healers or your DPS is very slow, you can always think of something cheeky, like the one healer standing left, one healer standing right, and one DPS in the middle is passing it to them, so it makes it a little bit quicker. But as I said, if you have 4 decent DPS, there's no need at all. And you don't need DPS gear on a tank or something like that. No DPS encounter. Like, literally no DPS encounter. So, our healer is basically taking out the second one, but as you see again, we only have 36 stacks now. It only gets dangerous at 80 and above. So we're already at 70%, and as I said, the boss loses 4 to 5% per activation of these generators. And you can activate these generators 3 times. The first time you can just do it, the second time you have to use 1 conductor, and the third time you have to use 3 conductors. So yeah, as you see, he only has 70% HP, so we're telling him click it anyways, it doesn't matter. We're at 52 stacks, so be it. Right? So he's now at 65, because our goal is to hit 60%. At 60%, the next phase starts. And that's when it really gets interesting. The first 9 minutes, after I'd say like 20 tries, the first 9 minutes will just bore you to death. Okay, so now we have the same situation, only that 4 tethers spawn, so that's why you should always focus the tethers first and don't DPS the boss. And you have 2 conductor droids. These conductor droids, again, have to be used for connecting a destroyed generator with an intact one. So one of our healers is free. He already pulled one conductor droid to the right position. Now the other one, while we kill the tether droids, and this item drops again with this indication mark of white little circle with I don't know, with a sparrow on it or something like that. I don't know. Yeah. So that's pretty much what happens. So as you see now on the left corner of my screen, you see the line again, right, connecting the generator with the conduit, and you have to click both intact ones now to trigger the next phase. We're at 65%, so we tell our healers to do it right away. No need to wait. We're at 64 now, so it's ultra safe now to get to 60%. If you are at 64%, you can just click it. Okay. You just have to wait. As I said, you will learn to hate it. At least we did. You know, maybe you are a little bit different. So now you ask yourself, who has tethers left? You have a total, if you do it correctly, you have a total of 6 tethers left in the group. Or grapple items, let's say. And now phase 4 starts. Phase 4 is the first tricky phase. It takes a long time to figure out what you want to do. But just think of it as phase 2. If we remember, in phase 2 we had to load up amplifiers with energy drones to a certain stack level and then break the shield of the boss. What we do now here is to let the energy drone shoot on an amplifier, let the amplifier shoot on another amplifier, and then shoot on the augment droid or the boss. If you shoot on the augment droid, your whole group, or basically a circle around the augment droid, will give you a 100% damage increase. If you target the boss will get 50% more damage per stack. And per stack on the amplifier, you get 2 stacks on the boss. So it's a little much now to take in, I guess, but we will just show you how we do it. So as you see now, the energy drone is in the middle, and the boss will spawn on the right. You know that because the augment droid always spawns in front of the boss. So you can just pull the augment droid a little bit towards the boss, so you have total coverage. And so the tank who manages the amplifiers is basically not bothered by you being the group or the augment droid. So we pull it into a, well, let's say rectangular shape, not so much, but let's just go with that. And we wait till the energy drone fires its first laser onto the makeshift amplifier drone. You see now the energy drone casts its first ability, which is indicated by these green little arrows on the left side of my screen. And the job of your tank is, if you choose to do it like we do, there are multiple possibilities. You know, I'm just offering you a solution, is to get aggro. The tank has to get aggro. And that is very, very difficult because there's a lot of healing, a lot of DPS, and you easily lose aggro. So what we do is our tank AoE taunts all 4 augment droids, so he's safe, and he tries to aggro at least 2 of them a little bit harder. So the makeshift amplifier drone, as you see on the top left, will get a stack. And this amplifier drone, just like in phase 2, will start now to shoot, right? And you have to have aggro, so you can direct this shot onto another amplifier. And by doing that, the amplifier doesn't only get 1 stack, it gets 2 stacks. And that's the main deal in this phase. You always want to have the amplifiers with 2 stacks, and then shoot on the augment droid or the boss. And if your tank manages to do that, you're basically through this phase. You have so much DPS increase that no matter what DPS setup you have, you will make it. Okay? So let's just roll it. You won't see a lot here. I have a guildmate who might do his own guide, so you can see the tank position a little bit better. But just think about it. Always try to put these amplifiers into a rectangular position between the augment droid and the energy drone, and that way it's pretty easy for your tank to get 2 stacks on the amplifiers and then shoot on the augment droid or the boss. Okay, let's just let it roll. So as you see, we're standing in front of the augment droid, and important to note here is you can't stand to our right on this little place in front of the boss, because there you get shock damage. Okay, so you shouldn't do it. And as you see now, our tank managed to get 2 stacks on the augment droid. It is loaded up, it glows purple, and that's the indicator of, we get damage buff. And while this happened, the energy drone in the middle already shot on another amplifier. So now you see on the left of my screen, the pink arrows, or red arrows, whatever you like, and he's already redirecting it to another amplifier. Okay, and that is quite tough as a tank. If you want to do it perfectly, which you should, right? Because it's your only job in this phase. It is really difficult, and you will need a certain amount of tries. Don't beat yourself up over it. Same as in phase 1, when tanks have to run in and out. Don't beat your tanks up. Okay, it's a tough job. So now, as you saw, the laser got redirected onto the boss, and now the boss has 3 or 4 better debuffs that increases the damage it takes by 50% per stack. And you basically continue to do that. And you see there are ads spawning. Let me say something to these ads. Because you have 100% damage increased, it is enough to spread dots on them. Alright? You shouldn't do anything else but spreading dots on them. All your DPS should go on the boss. The perfect setup for this, in my opinion, is 2 Marauders, 1 Guardian or Juggernaut, and 1 Sniper. Marauders both spec'd into dot, and the Juggernaut as well. The Juggernaut is the only dot spec that has an armor debuff. That's why it's quite essential. Especially if you're not perfect with the amplifier drones. Sniper is very nice for shield, and the setup we did it with was 1 power tech, 1 Marauder, and 2 Sniper. Excuse me. So that was pretty tough. It was not the best setup, but we managed to power through. And you have to bring the boss down to 34%. Then there's the next phase. So always remember to spread your dots, and always look into star paths if all your dots tick. For example, as a sniper, the corrosive grenade deals no damage on these ads, because they get 90% reduced AoE damage. So that's why you want dot spreaders. You don't want bombers like engineering sniper. Engineering sniper is crap here. Okay? So you really need dot spread, and the right dot spread. Corrosive grenade deals 90% reduced damage because it's counted as AoE damage, and corrosive dart is counted as single target damage. That's why it goes through completely. And that's another reason why Marauders and Juggernauts are so good in this phase, because all their dots count as single target. So if you have a choice, do that. As you see now, our tank's only job is to manage the amplifiers. The other tank has to have aggro of the boss, and you see now on the left why. Because the other tank lays down these little blue circles. Alright? And these little blue circles will follow you from phase 2 to phase 6. To phase 5. Not 6. But yeah. So you just have to keep that in mind as a tank. When you have aggro of the boss, don't stand near anyone. You will drop voids. So basically what we do is we do it without a tank in this purple circle. We have one doing the amplifiers and one dealing with the voids. That means that there's quite a high damage income, or DTPS, I'd say, of the group. But it's manageable, and if you have enough dot spread, it's quite easy. So now the boss switches position, and we have to do the same thing again. Everyone who has a tether gets a sign or grapple item. Sorry, I just always use tether because the droid is called that. So whoever has this grapple item just picks a target and pulls the drone with him. Either the augmentation droid or the augment droid or the makeshift amplifiers. Because you will have to, if you do it our way, you should try to achieve another rectangular form in front of the energy drone to make it easier. And as you say here, of course, there's still Cascade, which is a pain in the ass. So, but you see, we only pulled 3 now, which is not what we wanted. It's just that it happened so because someone was pulling the wrong target. But whatever, it happens. After a couple of tries, you will just mess up some things, but it still works because the tank can compensate that. So always first shoot on energy drone, then shoot on boss. Shoot on energy drone, shoot on boss. After you have stacked it up with 2 amplifiers, as you see now again. If the energy drone shoots an amplifier, redirect it to another amplifier, and then this amplifier will shoot on the energy drone, on the augment droid or the boss. And you have just have to do that until the boss is at 34%, which is quite easily done. If you take too long, there's basically a soft enrage. If you take too long, the boss will use his rocket launchers and destroy the makeshift amplifiers and deal damage to you. So you have only a certain time frame to achieve this DPS burn. But as I said, don't blame your DPS if it doesn't work. Give your tank the time he needs to get this thing going, to get it in his head. Amplifier, then augment droid or boss. Not energy drone, amplifier, boss. This will not give you enough stacks to maintain both buffs. Okay? So, this is the transition to the next phase. And now, if you played SM, you know what will happen. You will have a little rocket pattern that you have to avoid. The trick in hard mode is that you don't see these rockets. Alright? So, or the telegraphs basically on the ground. So you only see the rockets, how they come, or where they come from, and which one is missing. Which is quite hard to see for beginners. So what we know is where the rockets come from, because always when you look on the boss, 90 degrees to the right will the first rockets come from. So we were in the east of the minimap, so we know the first rockets will come from the south. As I said, looking on the boss, 90 degrees to the right, first rockets. Okay, let's just let it roll. And you see now that we cleaned up the hull droids, and there you see Izax flying around, and there come the rockets. And how I'm looking at that right now, you don't know shit, right? You could assume that it's right, because there are only like 2 rockets probably, right? But that's about it. And now you should see it. This is the last second where you actually have enough time to run to the position you need to go to without speed buffs. So you see now that on the left there are 3 rockets, in the middle there are 3 rockets, and on the right there are only 2 rockets. And meaning that the bottom right rocket is missing, you have to run to the front right in our screen now. As you see now, we run to the front right, and the rockets crash in. And now, again, you run back to the middle and you turn 90 degrees to your right. So we were in the south, so the next rockets will come from the west. So you see them again, and yeah, that's a little bit, I failed there a little bit, but you saw, I can just do it like this. Just didn't hit the pause button at the right time. So you see now again, 3 rockets on the left, 3 rockets on the right, 2 rockets in the middle. The top one is missing, so behind us will be the open slot. You just call that and you use predation or whatever you have. You just use it. Then the next one again, 90 degrees to your right. Next one will come. Pretty tough to see now, so you just go to the middle and you see, right is missing again. Top right is missing, so you have to go to your back right to avoid. One of us just decided to go another way, but it's pretty nice that you saw that, because these rockets won't kill you. Okay, they deal around 80k damage, so if you fail once, it's not a big deal. If you stand in the overlapping part between 2 rockets, you will die. Okay, so if you're not certain what you should do, stand in the middle. In the middle, you will always only get 1 dot tick. Problem with that, of course, is that the debuff you get prevents you from getting healed. So you can't heal that. Okay, so you kind of have to make 3 out of 4. So again, we look at the rockets, we see right bottom is missing, so we have to go to our forward right to avoid it. And that's what we're doing here. And normally always someone dies, you know. That's just how it is. I don't know. We didn't have a lot of try time. I think it's the 5th time we came to this phase when we managed to get this kill. So it's pretty simple from that point on. Phase 4 really is the deal breaker. So phase 5. So we're now at phase. We have the Gemini droid in the middle, which needs to survive. This is basically a droid that helps us killing the boss or nuking it by 30%, and it has to survive. And what's the problem with that? The problem with that is that, of course, Tether Droids spawn again. Tether Droids will go to the boss and shock it and prevents it from moving. So you have no other choice than to DPS it down, because you can't taunt them in this phase, you can't do anything with them. You have to DPS them down. What we do is we assign each corner to 1 DPS and let them deal with it. So let me see now, and I horribly fail here to target it, because targeting system in Star Wars is always crap as usual. So it's 180,000 life you have to nuke down. And now you see why. Because the boss has voids under it. And he needs to be pulled out of these voids, but can't be pulled out because the tether keeps him in place. Okay? So you have to DPS them down. And as soon as they're free, you can move the boss. You see another ability here, which is basically rockets on players. They are never allowed to overlap. If you let them overlap, they will explode. Okay? And I mean explosion here. Okay, so don't do that. Always stand a little bit apart from each other. And now the next important part of this phase are the combat mines. You see now there, if you look at the minimap on the bottom right, there's a whole bunch of them, right? 12 in total. What we do is we only let the tanks do that, because it's pretty simple. If both tanks have a grapple item from the Tether Droids, the Tether Droids just dropped 4 items, so everyone should have one. By now, at least. And what you do is, if you grapple these combat mines, you will throw them over your head to your back, and then they will explode. So what we do here is let the mines go into the middle, and then throw them basically over our heads on the side of this platform. And the tanks just do that in a rotation, and that's it. And the next ability in this phase are these bubbles. These bubbles are 1-to-1 stolen from World of Warcraft from so many encounters I can't even count them. So they just move around or move straight forward, and you just have to dodge them. If you get hit, you don't die, but you take a nasty amount of damage. And again, after around about 60 seconds in this phase, you get another set of Tether Drones. Oh, sorry, excuse me. It's a long time. It's one take. Okay, folks, it's one take. So we have Tether Drones, and these Tether Drones again need to be DPS down as soon as possible, and the tanks have to deal with the combat mines. So you have a pretty tough assignment, or great assignment for everyone, because the healers, they have the fun of pulling the boss. Okay, because you can pull the boss again with this grapple item, which can just grapple everything. Okay, and you always have to move the boss out of the way of these bubbles that are moving through the room, out of the way of the combat mines, out of the way of the tethers, out of the way of the voids on the bottom of, on the floor. So you see here we lack a bit of DPS in this phase, but it's fine, right? The boss is at 50% life, more or less. It's all good, or the Gemini droid, I should say. And that's about it. You see now that there are voids under him. We pull him out. Simple as that. You know, no problem. You only have to deal with 2 waves of Tether Droids. So immediately there is a Tether Droid wave, and then after 1 minute there's a Tether Droid wave, and then the DPS's only concern is to stay alive. You know, we have one who failed at that, but who cares, right? Okay, it's not a DPS check. So, yeah, as you see, we just move the Gemini droid around to basically avoid these bubbles, and the tanks deal with the combat mines. And everyone else just stays alive. That's it, because you dealt with the most important part, which is the 2 Tether Droids, and now you see the 3rd set of Tether Droids. You ignore this, okay? You ignore these 3rd sets of Tether Droids. And what you see now, because I finally clicked on the Gemini droid, is a buff. This buff lasts 2 minutes and indicates how long this phase lasts. So you only have to do this for 2 minutes, and then you're done. Okay? So we did that. And now you have the same as in story mode, which is this huge yellow void. And what you do here is you see these conduits on the corners. Each conduit can save 4 people. Okay? So we divided our group, as you see in the minimap, 4 on the bottom, 4 on the top. And now we count, because this yellow void explodes exactly after 10 seconds. So someone counts out loud, or you can, you know, whatever you want to do. You need a countdown of 10 seconds. And when he reaches 8, you move on the conduit and activate all devs you have. You know, all defenses you got, just in case. So we're doing that now. You get this little X over your head, and you see I got a little buff that indicates that, you know, I won't take damage. That's about it. Now we have the white screen. Normally now in story mode the fight is over, but not for us, because this is hard mode and we have to burn down the boss. Very intense fight or not. Well, it's really hard to take this seriously, because this was called out to be tuned for Nightmare. It's not. Okay? It's really not. You only have to deal 2.18 million damage. If everyone would have survived, this is a total of like 9,000 DPS per DPS. So you need a total of 40,000 DPS if you calculate the Omni Cannon charge in it. If you don't, then it's like 45,000 DPS, I believe. So 45,000 for 8 people is quite manageable, because no one has to do anything else, right? Your healers can DPS, your tanks can DPS, and your DPS can DPS. So that's about it. So as you see, we just burned through it. You have 48 seconds to do that, plus 6 seconds of the Omni Cannon charge, and we had 1 healer and 1 DPS down. Yeah, whatever. We just burned through it. That's all there is. You see the Omni Cannon charging, the stacks or the cast if you wish. And we just power through. And now we get a debuff that actually damages us, but it's not there from the start. It's only there, you know, for the last 20 seconds, and that's just ridiculous. If it would have been there for the whole time, okay, this would have been a challenge. But the last phase of a boss, which is manageable with 6 people, and is so-called tuned nightmare, I just call bullshit. Okay? If you manage to get here with a few people, you're done. So you might think now, oh, he's so arrogant, but he only had 2 seconds left. No, imagine that we had another 6 seconds of the Omni Cannon charging to kill him, right? So we only used up like 40 seconds of 54 seconds with 6 people in the end boss of a nightmare, so-called nightmare-tuned operation. Yeah, whatever. So that's about it. That's the boss fight. I hope this helps you. And to everyone who's withholding kill videos and withholding information and I just say, let the people decide, you know, what they want. If you want this guide, you watch it. If not, you don't. Simple as that. You're all rational beings. So thanks a lot for watching and have a nice day.